Hey everybody, Michael Snyder here, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is October 4th, and right now we are looking at the infrared satellite imagery. Let's get situated. Here's British Columbia, Washington, Oregon. Here you can see a weak system kind of sliding across the area here, not bringing any precipitation or anything, but we do have some pretty dense fog across some of the portions of western Washington, Oregon, up towards southwest BC. Looking out across the Pacific Ocean here, you can see the storm system moving across the Aleutian Islands. This cold air is really going to drop off here, get cut off across the Pacific Ocean here, and help to amplify some ridging here across the Pacific Northwest for the next few days. We'll take a look at that. We'll take a look at the GFS and the European, some pretty good model disagreement coming up here for what to expect later this weekend on in through early next week. So we'll go over that here in a moment. Now, checking out the visible satellite look at, you can see the Puget Sound, Willamette Valley, Oregon, Washington coast, straight to Juan de Fuca up towards southwest BC, really socked in. You can see some of the low clouds going up into the river valleys. You can see the forest fire smoke draining down into the valleys, as usually the case for the early mornings. Goat Rocks fire here, Cedar Creek fire. There's the Bolt Creek fire probably draining into these lower clouds here across some of the northern Puget Sound. And you can see some of the high clouds moving across the region, but there is some sunshine here for eastern Oregon, BC, Washington, and you can see some of the lower clouds already burning off across Idaho Panhandle, northeast Washington as we speak. This is Pendleton, Oregon. Just a good reminder here that most forest fires are human caused here, and I'm sure most of you guys know how to put out a campfire, but just remember, sometimes these things can last for several days or even a couple of weeks, and then they can flare back up. So just a reminder here that most forest fires are human caused, as such as the Bolt Creek fire was almost certainly human caused as well. Now, checking out here for Seattle, pretty warm again yesterday, 78 degrees, 13 degrees above average. We're going to cool that down quite a bit today, probably right around the 70-degree mark, I would bet here, but we're going to remain dry for at least the next few days across the area. We're not going to get to that record high there of 1966. It was 76 degrees here. Now, taking a look here at Portland, if we look closely, you can see 82, nice warm day as well, 12 degrees above average. We're going to cool that down. As you saw, it's pretty socked in there with low clouds around the region, so we're not going to get anywhere near these record highs today. Now, taking a look here, this is my house. You can kind of see the air quality is in green here. You can see how some of these mornings, the smoke kind of drifting down into the Puget Sound. But as soon as we start to warm up, we mix the atmosphere a bit, and it kind of improves the air quality somewhat. And you can see we are improving with some of this onshore flow, at least from yesterday. It was pretty smoky yesterday. Smelled smoke most of the day, but we are on the improve a bit going through the day today. Now, taking a look here, this is the northern hemisphere. Here's British Columbia, Washington, Oregon. There's Hawaii, Alaska. Here's Siberia. Here's China over here, and you can see Japan out here. This is just kind of showing you where the cold air is right now. You can see Russia out here towards Mongolia, and portions of China are dealing with this cold air now. You can see it drifting around, and you can see in turn how we're keeping some pretty warm air across much of the North American region here, and you can see this kind of move offshore here, and this is going to be a player for our weather downstream a bit. As we look at the European here, the control, you can see some of that cold air finally come across all the way from Russia through western Alaska. And will this get down over the Pacific Northwest like the European showing, or will we have more of what the GFS solution shows as this moves further east? We'll continue to watch the models to see if they start to consolidate here coming up. I'll show you a few more model runs here in a second. This is taking a look at the Pacific Ocean. Here's Hawaii, Japan to the left, Alaska, British Columbia, Washington, Oregon. This is that storm system I talked about on the infrared satellite this morning, and you can see this cold air just kind of get dropped off and forgotten about here as we have the colder air mainly moving well to the north here. But this will help spawn some ridging here across Pacific Northwest as this thing just kind of sits there almost stationary as it drops south and then eventually starts to weaken. But then you can see this cold air kind of moving across from Russia through western Alaska here, and this will be the next potential cool down coming up as we move towards October 10th and 11th here. But again, pretty good model disagreement with just the track of this storm system. And again, any storm system, like I said yesterday, that takes this trajectory is pretty moisture starved, although it could bring some precipitation across the area. But for the most part, if it does take this route, it would be a pretty significant cool down for the Pacific Northwest. Now, taking a look here, This is 850 millibar temperature, pretty much showing the same thing. See that upper level low get cut off here across Pacific Ocean and some that cold air. This is the 06Z. Also, I wanted to kind of show you that the previous one was 00Z yesterday, and this only goes out 144 hours here on the control run of the European, but you can see this cold air is taking the same track. So there is some consistency showing up here in the European model. With bringing some cooler temperatures towards, what is this, the October 9th, 10th, or 11th day period across British Columbia towards Pacific Northwest. Now, taking a look here, you have the European on the left, GFS on the right. Check some of these differences out in the extended here coming up. You can see that cutoff low, pretty good model agreement there. Build the ridge here across Pacific Northwest. And then we start to swing this lobe down. But now look at the differences that start to show up even just 129 hours out. You can see the European, a much stronger lobe moving across Alaska. This stays much further north, as you can see on the GFS. Drops it down well east of the Rockies here, but you can see on the European, this includes much Pacific Northwest, much more difference in the ridge position here across the west coast of North America as well. So big model disagreement here at 180 hours out, and this would have big differences in our weather coming up here. This would just be kind of a glancing blow and cool us down a bit, but the one on the left here, the European, would be much more of a cool down coming up here. So I'm interested to see what happens here in this afternoon's run and this evening's run here, and see if these models try to consolidate this polar lobe dropping down across North America here. Now, if that does come into fruition here, this is the European, this is the 0Z run yesterday, so this will go out much further than the 06Z run. So this is yesterday afternoon. So you can see it will bring a cold front here, some precipitation across the region, British Columbia, across the Cascades as well. But again, the big story with this would be the cool down, the cool air mass moving across the area. And then in the wake of that, you can see the Gulf of Alaska trough, being a little more progressive and potentially bringing some more precipitation towards British Columbia and maybe even Washington here through the extended forecast. But again, we can't get ahead of ourselves here too far out. We've got big model disagreement on the track that this storm system is going to take here. So we need to work that out first things first. This is the 06Z run, and you can kind of see here it brings that cold front down towards the end of the run. It only goes out 144 hours here. You see that cold front draped across the British Columbia west coast here as the storm system moves down across the area. So there is some consistency with the European, but as we saw, the GFS does not agree with that. Now, taking a look here, Astoria, you can see the temperatures are going to be suppressed a bit today. Pretty good fog cover out there, and really not much change for the foreseeable future here. You should remain fairly seasonable for much of Astoria for the next at least week or so. We'll see what that trough does in the extended Crater Lake and Klamath Falls Regional Airport. I should just say Klamath Falls. But again, nice warm days, overnight chilly temperatures here. But you can see the potential change that comes early next week showing up there in the extended forecast. Seattle, Tacoma, we're going to chop some temperatures off of what we have been getting the last few days. So it's definitely a cool down that we're going through now. And then maybe a bit of a bounce back as we go through the week, and then the potential for that troughing to come down through early next week. Vancouver, kind of the same thing there, the bounce back this weekend, the potential troughing coming down after that. Portland International, this is the 06Z ensemble run. You can see nice warm days coming up through the weekend here. So another very warm weekend probably in store for Portland, Oregon here. Seattle, Tacoma, kind of showing that potential for some precipitation here with that cold front that would move through. Again, would be fairly moisture starved. So this is going to change here over the next few days as well. Then the potential for some more precipitation in through the extended forecast here, but low confidence in both of these precipitation chances as we go through the extended. Now this is looking at 500 millibar heights on the top for SeaTac. This is the 850 millibar temperatures on the bottom one here, and you can see that trough swinging through here, bringing lowered heights, meaning a colder air mass here moving across the region. Same thing at 850 millibar temperatures. You can see these temperatures really dropping down, becoming much chillier. But look at what the GFS shows. Much more of a glancing blow here. Just a little bit of a cool down coming across the region, although it would put a little bit of a damper on the ridge across the area here. Now, taking a look here, you've got Tillamook kind of showing that same thing here with a bit of a precipitation signal with that first wave, and then maybe something on into the extended. Again, low confidence there. Kamloops just kind of showing you what would happen here if that European solution does come true. Chance of some precipitation across the region there. That would help. We can use all that we could get, but again, low confidence. This is for Kamloops on the European, kind of showing that big bulk of that polar air moving down through British Columbia there, and then that 850 millibar temperature is kind of reflecting that same thing there too. But again, the GFS, much more of a glancing blow here as we go through October 10th into the 11th, as you can see. So anyway, yeah, you can see the model disagreement we're dealing with right now. It's what we're trying to work out. But probably a pretty good chance at some warm conditions here, at least through the weekend for Seattle, Portland, much of the Pacific Northwest. As long as we're not dealing with fog or anything of that nature, we're going to warm up pretty good this weekend. And then the potential for a pattern shift does exist coming up here on and through early next week. But again, poor model disagreement, and we've got to work those details out. We'll look at that again tomorrow. I expect that we will get some consolidation in the path of this, because already the European has 144 hours out, shows the cold front coming down the British Columbia coast, and the GFS, like you saw, much further east. So I expect models will come to some kind of an agreement this afternoon or evening, or at least a little bit more of an agreement on the path that cold air is going to take. So we'll continue to watch that at this point here. Yeah, so it's kind of a nice break out there, having the fog out there for a bit, but it kind of reminds you of what's potentially coming here for the future, as we are dealing with a little bit of a cool down. But I'm looking forward to a fairly warm weekend here, because we all know what's coming here as far as November concerns. We know the fire hose is going to get turned on us here eventually, probably across the Pacific Northwest. It's not unheard of to get some pretty dry Octobers and Novembers around here. Even a dry December is possible, but it's pretty rare to get a dry period all the way through December, as we know. Anybody who's lived here for any length of time can attest to that. So anyway, we'll check out these model runs again tomorrow, and I will talk to you guys then. I hope you guys are having a good day.